Hello and welcome to this episode of Clicks and Giggles. And I'm joined by the wonderful Alice and the amazing Emma. I saw Alice just put herself on mute. That's probably not a good start, Alice. How are you both?
Very, very well. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Thumbs up.
I've got a shiny head today, so I hope that doesn't put people off, but there you go. So this episode is all about social media, really, and a bit maybe PR, but social media and impressions, engagement. These are all the key factors that people keep talking about. Social media, trying to increase your engagement and increase the amount of impressions and reach that you have. But something that people don't really talk about, and it's hard to measure, is people's perception. So I feel like there's a lot of posts going out on social media, LinkedIn, wherever it may be, with the pure goal of getting some engagement, clickbait, or to attract comments and likes and all the rest of it. But is it giving people the right perception? And I might be just getting cynical in my old age, and I know how this works. And people get training on LinkedIn, and they get taught what gets the best engagement and therefore the best reach and the best impressions. So people are out there doing personal videos and photos of their families and kids and all this kind of stuff and giving some really personal insights, because that at the end of the day gets the best kind of or the most engagement and therefore impressions and reach. But do people get cynical about this? And therefore, does it have a negative effect on your personal or your company profile? I probably talk about this quite a bit, so I thought we'd have a video, and Alice and Emma have volunteered to join in on this conversation. But do you two both kind of understand the kind of posts that and what we usually find when we go on to even LinkedIn? I'm talking about LinkedIn because sometimes you expect it on Facebook, but LinkedIn is a professional profile, platform, and people are turning it into something slightly different just to get some likes and impressions. Is that, am I right?
I think it's one of those things. Sometimes I think any engagement is good engagement, and it is what stands out on a feed, I would say, in especially on a LinkedIn profile where a lot of it is very professional, very business orientated posts. If you see a lovely picture of a family or there's a dog in there or whatever it is, and then link that with, I don't want to say the word sob story, but when you link that to, something that's a very emotive story, a very personal story, I think it does stand out. Often I've seen these posts, and most of the time I will say I can see a lot of good in the comments. But like you say, it's what impression is that then giving on that person's brand or company, whether they're a business owner or whatever it is? Is that the perception they want to give out that, they are going to use their own personal life
Yeah, and they might
to
argue,
gain?
well, I've just got 100 likes. People like it. But I know for a fact I have liked a post that I don't like. Don't ask me why, but it's because I know the person and I don't know why. I feel bad if I don't like it, or I want to show my support. So I'll go like, and therefore they can see who's liked the post. Oh, Dan's liked it. He's all right. Um, but really, I'm thinking, I shouldn't really be posting that, or I know why you're posting that just to get a like and this, that, the other. But in the end, so even the pressing of the like button, I don't think is always necessarily a positive. Am I the only person that does that?
No, I agree. It feels like a social, like you have to do that in order, because if you saw that and you didn't put a like, then you'd go, oh, I'm sort of giving a little bit of sympathy. But then your emotion towards the whatever post it is not a positive one. And you're less likely to want to engage in future if they continue to post things like that.
Mm. And what's worse about it is, Instagram stories, people can see who's viewed your story in
Mm.
Facebook. And if you don't like it, but you've seen it, you think you
Mm.
ignoramus. Why would you not? Why are you a heartless person? Why have you not liked my post?
But then I think that's really interesting because I think that is just part of like social media culture, isn't it? And it has been since it came out. It's like, why wouldn't this person like my post? But I think, like you've said, that's now translated to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Where, Facebook, Instagram, you expect that kind of behavior and that thought process. But LinkedIn, which is renowned for being professional, which is, setting up careers, all this, is that the appropriate place to be feeling like you've got to like something just to say you care about this person? Or
Yeah. I think it's a bit of a tricky one. But I mean, I think you've got some examples of where it's clearly crossed the line where it's got a lot of likes, but it hasn't necessarily done them any favors. So, Alice, I don't know if you want to sort of share those examples with us.
yes, let's have a look. So I found a couple of examples. I think, to be honest, on the points that we're making, I might try and start with this guy. So I hadn't come across him before, but it's apparently, as you can, it's like blown up on LinkedIn. I think it's a pretty old post now, but basically he's the owner of his own company. He's a CEO, and he posted an image of him looking very upset and distraught. And in the post, he talks about how he's had to let members of his team go, and this is the result. This is how it's made him feel. Um, I mean, you can see a few of the points, how many people he had to lay off. Can't think of a lower moment than this. He's thinking of their families, friends, hobbies, all this stuff. And I mean, a lot of there was quite a big backlash. There was a fair amount of support, but a lot of the top comments is very much, this is a woe is me post. You're a business owner. This is part of owning a business. And I mean, so much so that I think it made news articles from this guy. So, do we think that that's an appropriate thing to share on LinkedIn,
Yeah,
especially when the people are actually suffering?
yeah. I mean, obviously, you probably feel more for the people that he's let go. No, I understand it's not hard to let people go, but as you say, it's part of the business ownership, and I know it's always good to sort of share your learnings and your feelings and all that kind of stuff. But I do feel like that's crossed the line, and um, unfortunately, I just don't think it's the right platform. People are going to see it sort of in a skeptical way. You are trying to do that to get some likes. Maybe that is just me being skeptical. Maybe it's because I'm a bit of an introvert and I wouldn't want to post that. There's lots of things that I feel and go through every day running a business that, I wish everybody else knew about this. I wish everybody knew how much of a hard time I've had. But I refrain from doing that. Now, that's maybe because, as I say, I'm an introvert. Maybe it's because I know, why am I putting it to LinkedIn? I am typically, I post anything to LinkedIn is because I want people to see my post. For whatever reason, I'll put posts out there to try and sort of educate people on certain things, related to what we do, digital marketing. But very rarely do I post something personal to try and sort of educate other people on. I just don't feel like that's my place to do that. And it's also not LinkedIn's place to do that. But I know it's very popular. And sometimes it's you can't please everybody either. I also know that. So I get involved in posts which are political, which people might see that people are very sort of anti-government, anti-tax, anti-this, anti-immigration. And I always put my opinion across and try and sort of, try and base it on facts. And I get more of these posts in my feed because I've obviously engaged with them, but I don't like them. So obviously it's not helpful for LinkedIn. It actually turns me off LinkedIn because I get more of these posts that I don't like, but I can't help myself engage with because, people are talking things that aren't necessarily based on fact. However, they do get a lot of people that do agree with them. So I know as advising people on brands, you do not try and please everybody. I know that. But should you be also putting stuff out that could easily offend other people and anger other people? No, I don't think you should. Have you got any other examples?
My next example, like being at school again. So this one's a bit more recent. This was January this year. So James Watt, he was one of the original Brewdog founders. I don't think he any longer works for the company, but he still puts his name to the brand of an owner and a founder. Him and his, at the time, fiance, but wife now, shared a video and they put it across social. So the same video, I think it went to LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. talking about their views on work-life balance. So I'll share just a bit of the start just to give you an idea. Let me know if you can't hear it.
So I just think the whole concept of work-life balance was invented by people who hate the work that they do. So if you love what you do, you don't need work-life balance, you need work-life integration.
It's so true. And when I met James, I was quite taken aback at how aligned we are on the important stuff. And one of those is lack of work-life balance, but in a really beautiful way. So work knows no bounds, constantly in our home, we are working, but we do things that we find incredibly fulfilling. And we also have a supportive other half that loves that high octane obsession with what we do.
So I think you get the idea. That's the kind of topic.
Not everybody's cup of tea.
No.
A well-shot, casual-looking photo for stars.
Just in their home, in their multi-million-pound home.
Is that their home or is that an office?
Yeah, no, that's their office in their home.
Well, that's the thing. That's the big lines. If you love what you work, then obviously your office is your home.
Yeah, is his wife tough?
Yes, from Made in Chelsea. Yes.
Yes, because I think she's already a pretty controversial figure as well. So that's sort of interesting that that's the sort of attitude that is being held. So
yeah, it's a little bit telling. So basically LinkedIn, I mean, to be fair, it got some laughing reactions and a few people. I think what I would say is on LinkedIn, I've noticed some of them are a bit more of a balanced opinion on LinkedIn. People are sort of saying, we can kind of see what you're saying, but, I still think having that switch off time is important, all this. Whereas on Instagram, it blew up completely for the wrong reasons. They were getting, abuse thrown at them for their point of view. And in the end, he actually took the video down and then he re-uploaded it. Basically with some of his own thoughts, this is the video that caused all the drama, and he goes through his perspective and he basically just gives it some more context. So, but to me, I think the damage was already done. I won't show some of the top comments because they're probably not appropriate for this video. But yeah, I think the damage was already done at that point.
Yeah, I think that obviously tells the story about know your platform, know your audience.
Yeah.
So it might be, Gen X or Gen Z, and they see these things very, very differently. So posting the same content on different platforms that's a good example as a big no-no. But again, it feels like that curated content that is, someone's, social media manager sat down like, okay, what content should we create? And created it. It's not authentic, which doesn't really help. Where you've got a social media team around you trying to create some thought leadership and some inspiring. We've heard all that before. If you know what you do, you never have a day's work in your life. I mean that is not new. So it feels pretty fake, cheesy, and pretty.
It sort of comes across as a bit bad taste. I think they've tried to do that thing that we were talking about. Sharing a bit of their personal outlook. They're in their home. They're supposed to be having this casual conversation. It's like a look inside their life, but it's far too glossy. The points made are a bit out of touch, and I'm guessing this was this was 60 seconds of a pretty long conversation they probably had, and I think they've chosen a bad 60 seconds of that conversation to just share and post and sort of say, this is what we think about work-life balance, bye. Which is what he did on LinkedIn and Instagram when I think he first posted it. So
I guess you could argue if they posted that, they go, oh yeah, work-life balance, it's really important. We need to make sure that you have an absolute, your work day is your work day and your relaxation time is that. It wouldn't get the same amount, that's just the same opinion that most people have. So that again, is that something that's reaching for a larger audience and engagement, or is it actually trying to?
I don't think what they're saying is groundbreaking, is it? It's just like, well, we love what we do, so we work all the time. Well, good for you.
I was just going to say, I think that's the trouble, isn't it? At that point, I mean, not everybody is fortunate to be doing something they absolutely love and are happy to go home and carry on working until 11 p.m. It's such a small minority of people that could say
it's a big difference when it's your own business. You don't put in the extra hours in because it's your own business. So I think it's not necessarily even about what you love or what you do. I'm sure there's lots of architects working for architects firms that love what they do, but I'm not going to be working after 5, 6 o'clock because I'm only paid so much. It's not like I'm going to work more and get paid more. Whereas a business owner is going to do that. They know if I put more hours in the week, there's more chance of me making money from it. So I think it's a bit naive to be just saying, oh, well, if you love what you do, you should be working all the time. It's nonsense. But enough said about that. Eva, have you got any examples?
I have an example, but it is not a LinkedIn example. This is a general advertising, marketing boo-boo that has happened that you probably know about. Shall I delve into that?
Please share.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to talk about is Jaguar's rebrand at the beginning of this year.
Yeah,
So you've both seen this, yes. So it is from my perspective, it feels like the advert that they pushed out is very much a rushed art studenty sort of aesthetic that they've gone with. It doesn't look like they've spent that much money on it. I think what has happened with their whole rebrand, they've alienated so much of their audience because they've created an advert that if people haven't watched it, and you should go and watch it, it's people dressed in sort of purpley red robes, just sort of floaty bits of fabric. They're walking.
Nobody would ever wear. Yeah.
No one would ever wear, but they're sort of in this brightly coloured room. They're swashing some paint across the screen. It's got sort of very generic word salady sort of doesn't really mean anything kind of buzzwords. And I think the whole
breaking the mold and
yes, breaking the mold when they're not doing
have
anything.
No limits.
Is that inspiring? Yeah. It doesn't really mean anything, and it's also not very imaginative. So they're saying all of these things while also not doing that. But their whole brand for Jaguar before, I think it's sort of seen as like an old man car brand, very classy, very sort of, it's sophisticated but outdated. So they had a massive problem with car sales just declining significantly over the past couple of years. So I think from 2022, they sold about just over 60,000 cars. And in 2024, that was only 30,000 cars or thereabouts, which they've halved the number of cars they've been able to sell. And I think because of this, they panicked. They've hired a marketing agency to create this rebrand, this image that they wanted to push out. And they didn't do it well. And the argument that some people are making is that, yes, they've come out with this new rebrand and people really hate it initially, but they're just playing the long game because people are talking about it in a few years' time when they've released these cars that they've got concept art for, but I don't think they exist properly yet, or they're not available on the market yet. They look kind of crazy. They're very like boxy and pink. Maybe then they'll have sort of gained a new audience because it's completely alienated their old audience that was dwindling and they're able to create a new one. But that could be the situation. But then they did fire their marketing agency in May. So
I did back them.
Clearly didn't go the way they wanted.
I did back them up at the time. But the reason being is that I think the way the car market is going, a lot of brands are rebranded. Like change their name. There's how many new brands have come out recently, and you actually find out, oh well, actually they used to be Saab, but they've just rebranded. It's like Tesla; they used to be called something else. The car market is changing massively, and I think JLR or Jaguar, not JLR, Jaguar, had to do something because their brand was getting old, and their audience was getting older, and those. I'm stereotyping here, but their audience probably weren't electric car drivers. They will hang on to their petrol car until the very last moment. So they do have to rebrand and sort of attract the next generation, whether that's, people driving the next 5 years, 10 years, or able to afford their car in the next 5 or 10 years. Jaguar do need to seriously do something about it because, as you said, the car sales are declining and they're struggling. So they do have to do something. Whether that was the best possible advert. I mean, talking about, oh, this is wokeism's gone crazy and all this kind of stuff. It was very sort of left field, the kind of the brand that came out. So, and I kind of said, well, you're not their market. If you don't like it, you're not their market. So they've definitely gone all in at trying to try, and they have got some publicity, but is it good publicity? Some people might like it, but I think a lot of the noise was negative. And I think you're right. I think they should have backed it up with some more than a concept car that's getting wheeled about and powered by a petrol or diesel generator that I've seen pictures of, which is funny. They should have backed it up with, right, this model is coming out in 2027, even if it's 2 years' time. Back it up with some substance rather than just an advertising campaign. So I think if they did come up and said, right, okay, what does this mean? All these fancy words, right? Well, this is, we have got plans for this car that's going to be 100% made of recycled material or something, all electric, this, that, the other. It's going to have a greater range than any other car out there, and this, that, the other. Then people might go, oh, right, wow, they've changed their ways. I mean, they've got a big owner, I think Tata, don't they own them? So they do well. I mean, they export a huge amount. I mean, obviously they haven't done well in the last few months because they've not been able to make a car for about 3 months because of their hack. But and obviously the car tariffs going over to the US. That's a big. They literally stopped the exports to the US when those tariffs.
There was a stat actually that's been thrown about, and people have disputed as to whether or not this symbolizes the lack of demand, or it's just that they weren't able to produce the cars. But between April 2024 and April 2025, their car sales dropped by about 97% is the stat that I've got. It was 97%. So they went from selling around 2,000 to only selling 49 within the space of a year, which they have tried to say, oh, we don't have the cars available. But then why are you pushing so much advertising when you don't have any stock? Is that for the long game, or is that?
Yeah, I think there's so many moving parts at the moment. Maybe they mistimed it or something has gone against them. But I think, as I said earlier, I think it's good not, for a large proportion of the market not to like your advert and not be interested by it, because you want your target audience to love it. Okay, but I don't think you need to offend people. Now, this advert went a little bit too far for those people probably on the right side of politics and society that got a bit offended by it. But what was the jeans advert that came out in the States that have offended?
Sydney Sweeney. That was,
their sales have gone through the roof, haven't they? Yeah. They haven't had so much hate in their life.
Ah, that's interesting, because I did look into that one, but I didn't know that their sales had gone up so much. Yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah, so their sales are incredibly well, but they've offended loads of people.
Yeah.
So my advice is don't offend people, but don't be worried about pleasing everybody. But going back to the point about impressions and perception, I think don't just go looking, oh wow, I've got a massive reach from that last post. Let's do more of that. And forget about the purpose of what you're putting out there. Is it adding any value? Do people believe in you anymore? Do people believe in what you do? They might love you, but they don't think you're any better at what you do and what you're actually trying to sell, your services or your profession or your products or whatever it is. So I think trying to bear that in mind. Would that be about right?
Agreed. I would absolutely agree. I think this kind of content has a place, on different platforms, whether it's your personal platform. I still think LinkedIn, there's more value to be had than these very personal posts in terms of the perception that it gives your brand, your company. So I just think, like you say, there's a place for everything. Maybe LinkedIn isn't it.
Yeah, maybe not get carried away. Also think about what platform you're posting the content to, who is your audience, and maybe sort of tailor it to that. Because as you can see, the example you gave, it works on LinkedIn to a certain extent, a horror show on Instagram, I think. So both for adding those examples. And I think I've got pretty much everything off my chest.
Feeling better now.
Yeah. So until next time, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
See you then. Bye.